Hello, my beautiful creative souls, and welcome back for today's podcast episode. I'm so excited to have you here in this beautiful liminal space that is the moments between the solstice and well into January, I feel. And that's really what I want to talk about today is embracing that liminal space. What a liminal space is, why it's so important for us to honor when we are in those liminal spaces, and how I encourage us to embrace this particular liminal space that is kind of the transitions between the new years. So grab your journal and a beverage and let's dive in. So before we dive right in, let's talk about what a liminal space is, because if you don't know what it is, it sounds very strange and mysterious. So the liminal space is a transitory or transitory. I don't know if that's the right word. It's that space we enter into during transition where we're almost everywhere and nowhere all at once, because we are still in the phase or the cycle or the year, whatever that transition is for you, identity. We're in the before part of it, but at the same time, we're holding the future of it because we are in transition, right? We're blending the past and the future together into the present. And now one could argue we're always doing that, right? Like we're always on some sort of continuum with that. But there is this special essence that the liminal space holds. And the liminal space is also where the unseen lives. So some people associate this with like the underworld or the other side, right? The things where the spirits and the ancestors and the mystical things live that we can't perceive with our naked eye, right? So as we move through this space, there can be a tendency to really rush to try to separate the two things, to separate the past from what's coming up, and really just like slam the door on what was and move into what is. And I feel like we do this with a lot of transitions, but very much so with the new year, right? We think about the building pressure, which really starts, ironically enough, in like September, October, of like figuring out, if you're in the planner and journal world, that's where I kind of started and got my roots in. But there's this pressure of like figuring out what planner you're going to use and what system you're going to have in 2024 for this year, but like in the next year. And there's this pressure of like finding your word and doing your goals and like whatever. And sometimes we get little, hints and nuggets along the way of what we're kind of stepping into. But as we get closer and closer to that new year, there's really this pressure of like, figure it out right now. Like you're going to be behind. You better hit like January 1st with like the perfect friggin' schedule, the perfect morning routine, the perfect eating habits, the perfect whatever you're doing, right? And you better continue that. And there's this very like finite of like, we need to slam the door on whatever happened before and just like get on with it and like make new stuff happen. And while I'm not saying we shouldn't, plan, we shouldn't dream, we shouldn't bring things to an end and release what no longer serves us, I want to invite us into a more gentler way of approaching this, because the thought that we have to separate ourselves from who we were in order to become this person we're supposed to be, like the better version of ourselves the next year, is really damaging and often is not reflective of what's actually happening in our internal landscape, right? Very rarely do we find ourselves in a place of feeling like we have concretely, by the time the calendar rolls over, released the past and welcomed in the new. We might have done some things around it, but it doesn't feel so final. And I don't think it's meant to. I think no matter what time of year it is, we can go through these liminal spaces where we are in the middle of beautiful transitions of further aligning and walking down our path of what it means for us to live a soul-aligned life. And within that, right, we are walking the path of life. We are going through trials. We're going through joyous times. We're growing as people. We're learning. We're evolving. We're discovering new things. We're refining our tastes. We're dreaming up new dreams. And we are free to do that at any moment. At any moment, we are free to let things go and welcome in new things. Now, are there cosmic times where the energy aligned behind those intentions is amplified? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that we can only do them during those times, right? We don't only get to set new dreams out into the universe on the new moon, for example. We don't only get to release that which no longer serves us on the night of Samhain, right? There's so much freedom for us within how we get to choose to be, who we get to choose to be, when we choose to be it. And I really prefer to embrace this over and over again all throughout the year, right? I don't personally, and encourage you to consider not adhering to strict opening and closing of doors, if you will, but to rather sink into the idea that you are multi-layered. You are ever evolving. You are at any given point exactly where you are meant to be. And that as we let things go, we don't have to slam the door on them. We actually get to integrate the bits that are helpful and release what's not helpful, and use that information to fortify our strengths and our skills and our abilities as we evolve down our path, so that we are walking a path that's easier to unfold. So let me back up for a second, because that got a little ungrounded there. As we integrate the past into who we are and let go of what used to be, we come into deeper resonance with ourselves, with our soul, who we are in the present moment, right? In a sense of appreciation of where we've been, and a sense of forgiveness for all of our faults. And from this place of resonance within the self, and really exploring what it is that we truly desire, that enables us to take all of that and walk towards that desire, walk towards that path in a more flowing and easeful way, because we have integrated things from the past, which ultimately help to deepen our alignment with our path that we want to walk, because we are in alignment with ourselves. And being in alignment just means that we are in deep resonance with the pulse of our soul essence. When we are in alignment, it's not that we are correct. It's that we are flowing on the same frequency as our most divine self, like our divine soul essence, whatever that is to you, regardless of your beliefs, right? We all understand that there's something that makes us who we are. So to be in alignment is to be in the same resonant frequency or the same wavelength of that part of you. It's basically just being more of you, which is so beautiful, right? Because when we become devoted to living a life that is in alignment with the pulse of our soul essence, that is when we create the most potent magic, and our desires really begin to unfold in the ways that we want. And a lot of times, when we don't take this slower approach of integrating, connecting, and then moving forward from there, right? We often end up moving in the wrong direction, or taking a detour, if you will. Not to say that we won't get to where we want to go, right? But often I feel like we take a longer trip than necessary when we don't take this slower approach, because if we think about it in the context of the new year, if we're trying to meet some sort of external deadline during this time, we are going to default to the brain rather than the heart. So what do I mean by that? When we are tapping into who we are, right? When we're in alignment with our soul essence and we're really connecting in with that, to connect in with our desires, what we're doing is we're listening to the pulse of that soul essence. We're allowing it to have space and time and room to breathe so that we can hear the subtle callings that are constantly happening, that are calling us forward onto the path that is in conjunction with what we truly desire. When we feel rushed and we create desires from the mental space, we are creating desires from a default. Now, some of these desires that we create from default may be the same, right? I always like to use, especially around this time, body goals as an example, because I feel like it's one that we can all relate to, right? And when we think about a soul desire that we have, let's say I desire in the new year to feel alive, energetic, and at home within my body, to feel more grounded and connected to it on a more regular basis. But if I were to not tap into kind of the soul essence of that, the feeling of that desire, and instead use my brain defaults, I may end up writing down in my planner or journal or wherever, something to the effect of, I want to stick to a workout routine, lose 10 pounds, eat healthy food, and fit into a size whatever clothes. While all of those things may have to do with what you do truly desire, and if you pursue them, you could potentially end up right in that place that you want. It doesn't have the same vibratory magnetism that the core desire does. I know that's not coming out quite as poetically as I want it to, but I hope that you can see the difference between that, right? They're both the same goal technically. They're in the same vein. You might end up in the same place, but your journey to get there is going to probably not be as enjoyable or as flowing or as succinct as it could be if we chose to take the more soul-aligned, heart-focused approach. So, what do we do with this information? Because I extended the invitation to you, right, to take this slower approach. But how do we actually do that? So what I would recommend, and what I have done that I find is much more nourishing and gets us to this place that we desire to go, is to not try to set your goals before the new year. I know. Absolutely sacrilege. What am I talking about? Please do not exit. I mean, if you absolutely, want to, I wish you well. But here's why. We need that space, right? And the time, going back to the liminal space, the time between the solstice, which just happened yesterday as I'm recording this, and kind of the midpoint in January, there's still this liminal space. There is this transitory period. Even though the calendar technically rolls over, there is this space of unknown, this space that we get to play in where the lines blur and allow us to have kind of a potent portal of energy in order to play and construct and mold all of these things together. So in embracing this longer time frame, we then allow ourselves to take time to do those things that I talked about, right? To think about everything that's happened, the lessons that we learned, the deep shifts that happened internally for us over the last however long of a time period you want to look at, right? And to really feel those things and how they are alive in who you are right now. And from that place of wisdom, we can then forgive ourselves and to let go of, right? Because to forgive is to excuse of something, to release someone of the obligation of something, to lift a burden off of them almost. And there's an invitation to do that for ourselves and to really let go of the pieces that we may deem as not so great, right? That had to do with the pieces that had to do with our growth, right? There's always a light and dark side to everything. So we harness the light and we acknowledge the darkness and we lovingly let it go. And as we do that, a weight is lifted off of us. And we are able to then really connect with the soul essence and feel into who we are in this moment and what is calling us forward. So I invite you to spend time between whenever you listen to this and the new year to reflect and appreciate, and to not worry about saying, in January this happened, in February this happened, etc., but to more just do it from a heart knowing, right? To say, what is it that I am super grateful for that I did this year? What were shifts that happened inside of me? Did I feel more confident? Did I set a boundary that maybe I didn't feel like I could before? Did I get out of a situation that was no longer serving me? Did I finally allow myself the joy of exploring a passion of mine that I had previously not, right? There's all kinds of things that we can be in gratitude of and to recognize as milestones along the path. So that's my first invitation to you, to really feel into that and to seriously honor it, right? To take time to actually, as these things come up, to write them down, to do some sort of little ritual for yourself, light a candle, pull some cards, whatever feels good around that, but really process and pour appreciation into who you are and what you did this past year. And then as you feel that piece is coming to a sort of completion, right? Allowing yourself to let go of anything that came up from that you feel you are finished with, or that needs to be kind of released or alchemized. Then spend some time being quiet, listening. I love to do this right around the new year as the new year rolls over, of really just allowing myself the joy of delighting in what it is to be me. Having fun, not taking life so seriously, and slowing down a little bit to allow the space and the quiet for your internal voice to speak to you. And to take note of callings, right? To take note of synchronicities. You may already be getting a sense of what you would like to do moving forward, but this is really a time of saying, this is the information that I've, received, tuned into thus far, and just leaning into that and seeing what else comes up. And then from there, right, after the New Year's in there, after that pressure's taken off, after the dust has settled a little bit, and you've gathered all of this wisdom, to then create more concrete desires, right? To put these things into some sort of vision. Maybe you like to make a vision board. Maybe you want to really write out the definition of your word of the year. Maybe you want to create, pages in your journal to reflect this. Maybe you want to plan a couple projects that you're going to do that have to do with this vision, right? Really then moving into, okay, this is my map for the next however long that I feel like I want to work on these things, and begin to really take inspired action on them. And allow yourself, again, just the breathing room of, I don't have to pick everything right now that I'm going to create in the next 365 days. Because I don't know about you, but I sure as fuck don't know what I'm going to want to do 360 days from now. I don't even know what I'm going to want for breakfast tomorrow half the time. So allow yourself to see your intuitive, creative nature, not as a hindrance, but as a superpower, right? Because we get to, like I said in the beginning, reinvent and recreate ourselves over and over and over again. So take that pressure off. When you do eventually get into that more concrete, this is what I want to create moving forward, allow it to be enough for now. Allow it to be the plan as you start off on the road trip, but to leave yourself space to shift, to pivot, to refine, to expand, to close doors, right? To go through this whole cycle over again. Not just 365 days from now, or not just at the beginning of the month, but whenever the fuck you feel like it, okay? So, I'm so excited for you for the year ahead. If you do try this technique out, I would love to hear. It's definitely one that I do myself. I want to pull a couple cards for us, but I also have an invitation for you. If this slower pace really spoke to you and you're wanting a more supportive container to kind of guide you through these different phases, have rituals, prompts, card spreads to work with for all of that, I really invite you to join me for the Liminal Ingathering space. This is a space that I'm going to be hosting from December 28th until January 18th. I believe those are the dates. I don't have them in front of me. But I just pulled out some cards. They look really exciting. I have created this space for us so that we can individually, but also collectively move through these themes. So I called it the Ingathering because it is a gathering energetically, but it's really focused on going into the self. So what this is me guiding you in a container through 3 different rituals that take you through the 3 different phases that we talked about in this podcast. Each of the rituals are pre-recorded, so you don't have to worry about trying to make a specific time, to getting, everything all perfect on someone else's time, right? They're really meant so that you can tune into the ritual on your own time, in your own way, while still being connected to the group as a whole and to the energy of the group as a whole. And the way that we do this is, of course, through my intention as I create these rituals for you, but also in this beautiful portal, Telegram chat. Telegram is a free app that is kind of like texting. So you have a little group text within the app. You can send photos, voice notes, text messages, or text style messages. And it's a really supportive way for us to drop in when we're doing the exercise, whenever we're doing it, to share, to ask questions, and for me to drop in little extra prompts and mystical musings for you as we kind of move through these different phases together. I give you a week to go through each ritual, but the Telegram portal will be open until the end of January, even though our rituals kind of end mid-January, so that it gives you time to really sink in and, like I said, do things on your own time and really allow yourself to be inwardly focused while you're connected to this larger, beautiful collective energy that is the liminal ingathering space that I've created. So I'm going to leave all those details below for you. If you feel like this is something that's calling you and you're like, fuck yes, I want to embrace a slower pace as I go into the new year. I want to do this in a supportive container, but also like take my own time. Like I basically made my dream program and then created it for you because I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time in group rituals or group gatherings because I'm so tuned in to like everything else that's happening. And sometimes I'm like self-conscious and I don't want to like turn my camera on and like all these things. But I love the group atmosphere. So that's why I really created these rituals as pre-recorded rituals with that kind of group chat and voice note aspect to support us throughout, so that you can have the best of both worlds, right? The mystical support of the collective, while also just like being a little hermit introvert and doing rituals in your pajamas, because isn't that the best? So again, like I said, I'll leave all those details below for you. I have a special early bird price that will be available until December 24th at 5:55 p.m. EST. And then the enrollment price will go up to full price, and we will close enrollment on December 28th. So that morning at 9 a.m. EST, the morning of our first ritual. If you have any questions, my love, I am more than happy to answer them. Even if you aren't joining us for the Liminal Ingathering experience, I really, truly hope that this podcast episode helped you view things in a little bit of a different way and allowed you to really take the pressure off, right? And to allow the new year to be brought in with so much more ease and clarity, and just like this there's something so satisfying about allowing yourself space to be you, and I'm excited for you to experience that. So let's take a little look at these cards here. I wanted to pull some cards for us moving forward in this liminal space, but also anyone who was interested in maybe joining the Liminal Ingathering experience. Just a little guided message from that. I'm always just like, everything I do goes back to like my intuition and my guides and what the universe is saying. And if you're mystically inclined, I know that like you're the same. Like I pull cards about everything, not because I don't know like, you know, what I'm feeling, but just because it just makes me feel so connected. So I digress. I'm getting a little too chatty. I have other videos to film, so I gotta save the chats for then. But as we move forward into this liminal space, we have the Strength, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Cups, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Five of Wands. And this Five of Wands really sticks out to me, right? Because as we have all of this initiatory energy of like the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Wands, the Seven of Pentacles, of continuing to build and seeing fruits of our labors, right? There is also that conflict, that little bit of competition that we have, especially with this new year energy, right? There's always all these people sharing their vision boards and like their fantastic things that they manifested and like how much money they made last year and all kinds of other things. And not to say that, you know, people shouldn't be sharing those things, right? We all deserve to share. But there can be internal conflicts within us created from that if we're not really tapped into who we are in this moment and get caught up in what other people are doing, how what we're doing or what we did compares to that, and just all of those other things. So just be mindful of that as you're moving forward. Don't berate yourself if you end up in that space, but just like be aware of it. Raise some attention to it. Say, oh, that's curious. Why am I feeling that? How can I come back to myself and my inner strength, right? Holding your own identity takes strength and fortitude. It's a lot easier to get caught up in the waves than it is to hold your true essence. But honey, there's no other way for me. Like that is the only way. My way or the highway. Not to say that you should do things my way, but just for me, it's my way, or like, you know, I guess that seamlessly doesn't apply, but we're just going to ignore that and move on. I think you got what I was trying to say here. Our last couple of cards are like I said, are the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Cups, and the Seven of Pentacles here. And these cards are so beautiful because it speaks to the passions that arise, right? The desire to fill our cup, to really sink into that abundant and nurturing energy and get excited about like everything that is to come, right? But even with this initiatory energy, there's a reminder to not get lost and forget what we're still like working on, right? Very rarely does everything that we're doing kind of end and button up at the end of the year, right? There's going to be things that we have completed for sure, or that we decide are no longer things we're interested in. But there are also things that we're still like working on, or things that we're closer to completion on. And we can use that excitement and passion and emotional energy that we kind of re-up on, right, during this time in the liminal space, to continue to breathe new life into those things. And our oracle card here is the Unknown. It says, think on it and you will stumble, for the heart is a ghost upon the unknown. Let it bleed into the depths, bearing nothing but desire. Oh my God. I love these decks. This is the Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not a huge fan of the new ones, but the ones that were done by the original creators, I have all three of them, and they're so beautiful because I love the poetry on the bottom. The Unknown. Think on it and you will stumble, for the heart is a ghost upon the unknown. Let it bleed into the depths, sparing nothing but desire. So I feel like this sums up everything I was speaking about being in that liminal space. And remember, I said this oracle card was going to be for those of us who were feeling called to the liminal ingathering experience. And there can be discomfort, right, in this liminal space, in allowing ourselves to embrace the unknown and to embrace the space to breathe, because it is unknown, right? But this card is saying, if you think too much about the unknown, if we use too much of that mental space and try to see the unseen with our mind, we stumble, right? It almost leads us in the wrong direction. But when we can tap into our heart space, talks about the heart space being a ghost of the unknown, right? A heart is not something that we consciously perceive in language that we already understand. The heart speaks to us through sensation. And part of the unknown is decoding and comprehending what that sensation means to us. And it's not until we allow ourselves to open up and to explore these sensations that are alive within the depths of the liminal space, within that transitory unknown, that we begin to really understand what it is that we truly desire. Because desires do not come from the mind. Desires come from the heart. Desires that come from the mind come from the Five of Wands. They come from competition. They come from envy. They come from, ooh, look at my flashy thing over here. They make us think that that thing or status or symbol or person or situation or environment or whatever it is will give us the sensation that we desire. But when we are able to set our sights on things from tapping into our desires first, then things become a lot clearer. They become a lot more aligned because we took the time to explore the unknown first in order to arrive at the conclusion of the pleasant surprise that is the unfolding of a magical life, right? The unfolding of aligned life. So, my loves, if that sounds beautiful and perfect and resonating with your soul right now, then the liminal space, the liminal ingathering experience is 100% for you. And even if you're not going to join us, I think there's definitely wisdom within that message for you as well. So I'm going to leave you here, my loves. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. As always, links to the things will be in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, etc., etc. It will be in the show notes for you. I can't wait to see you there if you're joining us for the liminal ingathering experience. And otherwise, I'll see you around. Take care, guys. Bye.